Hey, Daily Dosers. Here in the United States, it is Thanksgiving week, and often that means we're thinking about things to be thankful for. But today, in the midst of all of that, I want you to think about something that might be a little harder. Those relationships in your life that need some work. Well, with Thanksgiving coming, I'm guessing some of you out there might be getting ready for some type of family gathering. Maybe you're eating salad tonight as you prepare for an enormous turkey dinner tomorrow. Maybe you're busy packing your car so you can drive to see your loved ones. Maybe you're heading to the airport. Maybe you're celebrating Friendsgiving because your family doesn't live near. Or maybe, for some of you, celebrating Thanksgiving, thinking about the concept of Thanksgiving with your family is the last thing you want to do. We realize this time of year could be really tough for some of you. And regardless of where you find yourself, our hope on the Daily Dose this week is that you will pause with us to think a little bit more about the topic of gratitude. The gratitude you experience, yes, but also the ways that that gratitude flows out from you to the other people in your life. In the Bible, in the book of Matthew, the author of this book writes an entire section in chapter 5 where Jesus is speaking to his disciples on top of a mountain. It's commonly referred to as the beatitudes section of a big sermon that Jesus gives, sometimes called the Sermon on the Mount. Now, that word beatitude, it's big, it's kind of funny, but if you look it up in the dictionary, you'll get these types of definitions: a state of utmost bliss, or supreme blessedness or happiness. And that sounds pretty great, doesn't it? Utmost bliss, supreme happiness, sign me up, because I would sure like to experience some of that right now. And in the book of Matthew, in chapter 5, Jesus has really just begun his ministry. He's called the first few of his disciples, and crowds of people from all over the place have found out that this guy, Jesus, is an amazing healer. Jesus has already started proclaiming to all these people that he's talking with that the kingdom of God is near. So he spends some time here, specifically with his disciples, explaining what that means. And if you've listened to the Daily Dose earlier this week, you've heard that he gives the disciples several scenarios. Each situation begins with a phrase that starts, "Blessed are," and ends with, "For they will." Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And today I want to talk about verse 6. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. I think it's important as we look at this to step back and think about all these beatitudes and remember that Jesus is throwing us some concepts that seem really backwards. Even today, they're opposite of what we would expect. These groups of people who would, in the way of the world, experience affliction, here Jesus is saying, no, in the kingdom of God, they are actually blessed. So here with verse 6, I think it's helpful for us to look specifically at the words righteousness, hunger, and thirst. If you're like me, when you think of the word righteousness, I tend to think about a somewhat negative character trait, someone who is righteous in his or her beliefs, upholding virtues for his or her own sake, rather than for the sake of someone else, someone who just likes to be right. Can you think of someone? But here, think about righteousness being the restoration of a relationship with someone, making things right when they haven't been right, maybe for a long time, maybe ever. And when you think about the words hunger and thirst here from verse 6, think about them in connection with the word filled that's at the end of this verse. Think about yourself or your kids when you experience hunger or thirst. It can make you do some pretty weird things. Anyone have kids who are hangry now and then? When their hunger or thirst is satisfied, when they are filled, they can turn back into completely different people than they were in the midst of their total meltdown moments just earlier, before they experienced that. So now, together in this verse, Jesus says that in God's kingdom, we will be truly filled from our hunger and our thirst when the relationships in our lives are made right. Notice that this involves other people and it involves God. Not just taking some sort of action on our own that benefits us alone. It's the relationships among us that will be made right or made whole with the help of God. So what does this mean for you and me as we read this verse today? Well, as you dive into your Thanksgiving celebrations, or if you have some time off, even if you're not celebrating in some big way, I invite you to wonder, where are there relationships in your life that need to be made right? It might go against our human instincts, which keep us looking mostly out for me, myself, and I, but maybe this is God's nudge for you to hunger for wholeness in relationships where it has lacked before. Hey, thanks so much for watching the Daily Dose. We can't wait to continue talking about gratitude with you. We'll see you next time.